Hi, and welcome to the Most Important Game podcast. I'm Paul Monahan, and my mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best, no matter the stakes, no matter the circumstances. I help my clients to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more. And in today's episode, we visit with a really interesting guy by the name of Christian Henning. Christian joins us from the Graves Golf Academy facility in Edmond, Oklahoma, a brand new facility that they have out there. And Christian is a key member of that team. He has a really cool story about how he got into golf. His passion for golf really comes through. And I think he brings a really interesting perspective because Christian is basically a strength and mobility guy. At least he's kind of moved through the space with that, or with that lens. And I think you'll enjoy Christian's take on how all of this matters for a strong outside game and a strong inside game. So here we go. Okay, we're here with Christian Henning. Christian, really great to see you. I see you're in the brand new facility over at Graves Golf Academy in Edmond, Oklahoma. Looks fantastic. Great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I know that we participated together in the program we did for the Graves Golf Academy group last year, and I know you've got a ton to I think add to this conversation that is part of this podcast I call The Most Important Game, where it's definitely about the what I call the inside game, right? Hey, what is it that creates great performances? And yes, for sure, there's this outside game we play, and I know you spend a lot of time on that, which is fantastic. But I also know that you spend time on what I call the inside game, the stuff that goes on here. So, having been around golf for so long, I'm really looking forward to getting your take and your perspective on what it takes to be at your best and play at your best. So, super excited.
Sure. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So, well, let's start. Tell me about how you found golf, and kind of what's your story? Where'd you grow up? When did you discover golf? And let's just kind of start there.
So that would be my grandfather. I was probably about 8 years old, and I just remember riding in the car with him to this golf course here, Lake Hefner, and then everybody knew who he was in the clubhouse. And I thought that was the coolest thing. But he got me my first set of clubs, showed me how to use them. So my grandfather was, a big part of that. And then, I would go years without doing anything, playing baseball, playing football, whatever. And then I would always come back to golf. And me and my buddies started playing, I think we were about 14 maybe, at our local park. And we just had a couple of clubs here or there and some balls, and we would go out there and we called it the PGA, the Park Golfers Association. We actually got fairly good for what we knew. We didn't know anything. So then I got into books, and Ben Hogan's book, my dad gave me that. It was pretty special because he wrote in it my name and everything. I still have that book. But that was really it. When I read that Ben Hogan book, I was sold. I was like, there's a couple of lines in there, and he's just the average guy, if he just applies himself with some basic knowledge and practice and work, there's no reason he can't shoot in the 70s. And I thought, wow, man, that gives me hope. So really just learning out of books, and then after college, I decided I think I want to be a golf pro. I think I want to teach people how to play golf and all that. So I worked at Oak Tree Country Club for a while, and then it doesn't pay very well, the assistant pro gig, and you fold a lot of shirts. So I was like, if I'm going to have to work for a living, I want to do something that pays well. So then I got into technology, but I've always been in fitness, from day one. And even back in the late 90s, I was like, how do you blend a workout to play better golf? Because at the time, everybody's just doing bodybuilder workouts. There really wasn't a lot of functional movement trainers out there. People were just kind of doing what they knew worked in the past. And I guess it does work, but it wasn't very athletic towards golf. not that it hurt, it actually helped things, but um, got really involved in how do you design workouts for golf, and started my own gig on that, and been doing that 15 years, and then met Tim and Todd, and now here I am. So very happy to be here with the Graves brothers.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And didn't the Graves brothers, didn't they play out of Lake Hafner
They
at
did.
some point or?
That's where they also learned how
Mm-hmm.
to play golf. They were part of this program called the Wonder Program, and if you did a little bit of work around the clubhouse, you got to play free golf. So it was a great program. I don't think they do it anymore, but they should. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so they were part of that, and I guess the rest is history.
exactly. I think when they weren't on their little mini bikes whipping around Lake Hefner, they
Yeah.
were on the course, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's great. I love that you mentioned the Hogan book. What are some other key takeaways as you developed early on and you know developed that passion for golf? What else do you remember from the Hogan book?
Uh, I love the artwork, but primarily it was the grip. He went into such detail about the grip, and he gave as much attention to the grip as he did anything else. And I was like, wow, it must be really important to get a good grip. But I remember some phrases out there about drinking ginger ale to if you're feeling a little anxiety and this and that. I think what he was getting at was like you need to just take a break, and maybe that's part mental game too. But he felt like if after he drank some ginger ale, he had better touch, better feel. Um, what else is there? Just really the simplicity of it. I know there's almost every paragraph has a gold nugget in there, and I've probably read that book 30 or 40 times. But it was just really wasn't anything like it for decades. I know Jack Nicklaus had
Right.
some books and things like that, but this was almost like a how-to book. So it's always going to have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. I think this idea, this ginger ale thing was the ginger, it settles the stomach and the feeling because that anxiety, sometimes we feel that in our gut.
Yeah.
And I think that's that, ginger is going to calm, it's going to calm
Hmm.
the butterflies and the feeling in the gut a little bit. So,
Yeah. And I've never tried it, but my takeaway was that he just wanted you to kind of relax and take your mind off the game for a little bit. So,
yeah, the distractors are key. It's not like he was just, he wasn't sponsored by Canada Dry.
yeah.
That's not why he said drink ginger ale.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas today, you would have to be a little suspect of it.
You would, yeah,
If
no doubt.
Phil Mickelson's talking about it, I think Phil's talking about some other drink now, coffee or something.
Oh yeah, he's
I
got
think
that.
he's a part owner of the company.
He is right. He developed this coffee drink, and it's got, um, I think it's got turmeric and cinnamon and yeah, a few other ingredients that he claims or he likes. Let's just put it this way: he thinks it gives him the results he's looking for. But
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it I think it makes him less jittery too. I think that's the other thing. It's like a coffee drink that makes it's got some ingredients that sort of take away the jitters from the caffeine. I think
maybe kind of the
that's
same thing then. Have you
yeah.
tried it?
I haven't, and I need to. I think I went to. I think I went on to search for it, and I was like, "Holy crap! That's like $8 a cup or something." No, it wasn't that much, but it was like you know.
Yeah, it would be high.
Let's just say his margins are solid on that product. They have to be.
I might give it a shot, see what it does.
Yeah, I think that's worth it. I think it does matter what you eat and drink when you're playing on the course.
Hmm.
Have you seen the product? I always remember. I'm trying to remember it. It's either Smart Focus or anyway. It's this. I think maybe you and I have talked about it, but it's this, you get this like packet of snacks for an 18 hole round.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's, built by a group that's like, they're nutritionally mindful. It's like, hey, instead of grabbing a burger and a Snickers and a Gatorade at the turn,
Yeah.
right? Eating nothing and then spiking your sugar and all that. Their whole thing is, hey, there's a methodology to how you feed your body over the 4 hours you're going to play.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean, if you spike your insulin levels and you're exhausted at the 10th hole, how are you going to play? So I guess you want to maintain that focus, but also that energy level. So you have a full 18 holes and you're just really, solid on that end.
no doubt, no doubt. And sharp focus is the name of the product. And so, like, you start with before the round, you have some beef jerky, right? You get some protein.
Hmm.
And each little packet is labeled, eat this on hole 2, eat this on
Wow.
hole 6,
I
eat
think
this
that's
on.
great. I've not
Yeah.
seen this.
Oh, yeah. I've tried it. I've got a bag around here somewhere. I have a box actually of it. I have to say, Chris, it's really makes a difference. I was playing in a tournament a couple years ago, and at the end of the second day, it was a 2-day event, and I was like, I was spent by the end of the second day.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is like, there's got to be a solution here, and I found this product, and it's really interesting because what they do, they go from kind of a protein base, nutrition, feeding your body, right, and feeding yourself, and then later, like the last thing you eat is this dried fruit, and you eat it like on hole number 16, so where you just get a shot of carbohydrates for the last 16, 17, 18. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean the on-course nutrition is a big thing, and it sounds like they've taken it to the next level, which is really good. You could probably kind of knock these things off if you wanted, like almonds and
It
dried
You're exactly
fruits and
right.
beef
Yeah.
jerky. Build your own little setup there if you kind of knew the formula.
Yeah, and the formula is, it's right there for you to see. It come, you know what I mean? It comes in the shipment. It's like, oh, that's all it is. It's okay, I'll have some beef jerky. Hole number 2, I'll have some almonds. Hole number 6 is like the trail mix.
Hmm.
So you've got a combination of protein and some carbs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it graduates towards more and more carbs, which is
Yeah, it's all
interesting.
about keeping your energy level and focus even, right, and not spiking and dropping because you don't want to get too hyped up, but also don't want to kind of drop off and be ready for a nap, which is what happens to a lot of guys. A lot of the guys that I've coached in the past are drinking beer, which is also not great. And then they're at the turn getting the hot dog and the Snickers bar, and I'm like, you're worried about your score and you're eating that stuff. You're gonna crash.
It's so true. And yeah, look, I used to play that way. And until I finally woke up and I'm like, no, it has impacts. It's like, if you want to be focused on the game and able to play at a high level, hole number 15, 16, 17, 18, like I was finding like shots were slipping away so easily late in the game for me.
And most of that's focus, right? If you have that brain fog from all that bad food, which is what happens to me. It's like I just go into, like, I call it a food coma. If we go eat at the Mexican restaurant, I know I'm gonna have a food coma that night. So I kind of plan those out, but you
Yeah,
don't want to do that when you're trying to shoot your best score. But just
indeed.
maintaining that focus, it's keeping the mind sharp, I think.
Yeah, no, no, no question. Tell me about your own journey to higher and higher levels of play. I'm curious how that happened for you. Most people listening that are interested in golf we all want to get better, right? And so I guess I'm curious to hear what that journey was like for you.
So for me, I just decided one day that I wanted to be a golf pro. I had no real other than, learning on my own. So I went up to Oak Tree and I asked for a job. And I talked to the head pro and I told him what I wanted to do. And I told him, I'm not great right now, but I'm willing to learn. And his name was David Brock. And there was another golf pro there named Jay Dowdican, and they really helped me. I got free lessons basically, and they really coached me and got me moving in the right direction. And after that, I went to a different country club, and I was working with a good buddy of mine now. He was a PGA pro, and at the time worked in the bag room, it was kind of funny. He was a PGA pro working in the bag room. So his name's Brent Cryer. He's like I call him the golf whisperer. So anytime I have trouble, I will go to him and he'll get me fixed right up, hook me up in a couple of swings. So I just really surrounded myself with good golfers, good players, and more than that, good instructors. And I'm blessed to be here now with Tim and Todd. Tim we have a school going on here, and the other morning I was just watching him lead the group in there, and I was like, wow, this is high level stuff and he makes it so easy. He simplifies it. And what came across to me was, I know Tim personally. I've worked with him, worked for him, but to see him in his element and his craft and what he's been doing for, 25 years is really special. And the same for Todd too. Like when they get around a group of people, they can just simplify this complicated game. So I guess, my journey's been really just to surround myself with people that are better than me at it.
That is such a strong success formula. I love that. I love this idea. And for those listening too, like Oak Tree is arguably one of the finest golf facilities in the country. It's is it 36 holes? No, it's 54 holes, right? If you count
Well,
national and
back then they were all owned by the same people, so it
okay.
was 54 holes. Now they're kind of split. So there's a national, which is 18 holes, and that one
Hmm.
is, I think, one of the hardest golf courses in the country.
Yep.
And then the other side is called the family side, and they have an east and a west golf course, and those are fairly challenging too. They're all Pete Dye courses, so you're going to be challenged, especially around the green with bunkers. There's a lot of ponds that he's cut into greens and things like that, and it's fairly challenging golf courses.
Oh, it's a great layout. It's a great facility as well. So you roll into this place and you start your professional golf journey. So talk to me about how you've learned to play better at a higher level. Like what was that like for you?
So I wanted to get into the PGA program, become a PGA apprentice, and you have to take this test. It's called the playing ability test. And I don't know if I can say the words that I learned on my swing thoughts, but what happened is I would go and take the PAT and I would just blow up. Like I would just get so nervous I could not function. And I would be shooting 85, 88, 90s. And then the walk, I call it the walk of shame. You go back to the country club, everybody knows what you shot. Like you walk in the door at 6 a.m. and they know because they're calling the other golf pros to find out what you shot. And then finally, I was talking to one of these guys, and he was like, you're just too nervous, man. You just need to have a swing thought. And I saw Tim was talking about this the other day. He's got the hippopotamus. But basically, it just kind of calms you down. Mo Norman used to hum. So my swing thought was like basically screw it, but not, if you catch my
The
drift there.
yeah, the TVMA version of Screw It.
Yeah, and that really helped me to just, it's like, I'm not going to die if I don't pass this. It's not ideal, but I need to figure out something to be able to relax on the course. And that was really it. It's like caring without caring. I think Mo Norman calls it the alert attitude of indifference. I care, but I don't care. It's like if I hit a bad shot, I just need to move on to the next one and give that my full attention. So that was a big thing to me because I used to lose my temper and get mad and pout, and it was just ridiculous. It was pathetic. So,
So that was the key for you, was just learning this alert attitude of indifference. In a model that I teach, also we call it detached involvement, right?
yes, yeah,
Be there, be
detached.
focused, right? But
Well, it's interesting you talk about being detached. I try to do that in the business world. So if you get too emotional or too invested into something, you kind of lose the big picture. You start getting really granular. So if you can detach, you can take a step back and you can see the big picture. So in golf, this would be if you can detach, okay, I hit a bad shot, but overall, I've been playing pretty darn good. So I shouldn't be too hard on myself, and I still have, a couple of holes left here to play good. So the detachment is, I think, very important to making good decisions primarily.
no doubt, and it's interesting how, and I guess it's probably part of our culture, and when our students come in at Graves Golf Academy to really dive in deep to into this concept of this mental game concept of, how can I play the game with an alert attitude of indifference. Like, we start talking about this, and it's really interesting, Kristen, because I will get sometimes I'll get some pushback, and it sounds sort of like this. It's like, wait, you mean I'm not supposed to care about the score that I shoot?
Yeah, it's you should care, but I mean, what can you do about what's been done? Not a whole lot. You can learn from it.
Yeah.
Like what kind of shot did I hit? Okay, well, whatever, whatever went wrong with it, and they just kind of go in your mind of like how to almost reverse engineer it. But I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. You don't want to get too technical out there. But I've also seen those guys that are super aggressive in their thinking, and those are the ones that like just lose it. Like they go off the cliff. The guys that remain cool and calm, it's almost like you watch Tiger Woods. If he hits a bad shot, he's going to get mad immediately. However, as soon as he does that, it's gone. He's not even considering it anymore. So he's back on, and he's going through his routine. A lot of times I see with these guys, they stop following their routines when they kind of get emotional. I guess that's what we're saying here is like we don't want you to get too emotional because you'll make bad decisions, and it's kind of a cascading effect after that.
That's a great word. Emotion. I think that's exactly what happens. And I think you're exactly right. Like, I know that for me is that if I'm not careful and the game's going a little bit sideways, that, well, I call the quit one of the five bandits of potential in my world is quit, right? And I will sort of quit, and then in that I'm not in that routine. I'm not behind the ball, being thoughtful about the decision I want to make. When I step into the shot, I forget about what's important there, or I bring the past into the present, like all this
Mhm.
stuff. So
Well,
it's
I think
tough.
you can avoid some of that with just having a very consistent routine. It's like they've got the red zone, green zone strategy, and it's when you get into these zones, you know what to do, and you've practiced it so many times that that consistency will actually bring you through any kind of mess you're going through. Um, a lot of these people I see that just blow up, and you can see it on the pro tours too. It's like I saw a couple of weeks ago where a guy started putting poorly, and he just got to the point where he was just walking up and slapping it. Like he wouldn't do his routine at all. And he was missing them when he was doing this. And I
Ooh,
think he just didn't care at that point. But
that is tough.
amateurs do that all the time. And you have to have some kind of mechanism to pull you out of that. And I think just having a good routine uh, can do that. You just have to be consistent with it. And how do you get into the zone? Like for me, sometimes when I'm hitting balls, I don't hear anything around me. Like I don't see anything. It's kind of strange. It's like when you get that hyper focus. It's like how do you reproduce that? After you've had a couple of bad holes, maybe.
So I mean, when you're hitting balls, like when you're in a practice scenario,
hmm
you're just
Well,
that's
even
like
if
a
I'm
zen
hitting a
space
tee
for you.
shot or a chip or something,
Okay.
I've got these movies playing in my mind of how I want to hit this shot, and then that seems to like take me straight into these different zones, these different pre-shot routines and things like that. Whereas these emotional guys I see, they just can they'll just walk up and they're not even following their process at that point.
All right. I love the idea of running a movie, playing a movie in your mind before you hit a shot. Say a little bit more about how that works for you.
So whenever I walk up to the ball, I'm like, especially around a chip shot, I'm figuring out where do I want to land this ball? How is it going to roll? Am
Hmm.
I going to hit a low shot? Am I going to hit a high shot? So then once I make these determinations, I can play that movie in my mind of seeing that ball hit on that spot and then the roll that's going to be associated with it. Um, and then obviously you have to hit a lot of chips to be able to get to that point. But if you can do this, you the mind is so strong. You can feel the shot in your mind, like when you're playing these movies. So then really it's just about getting into the shot zone or your pre-shot routine, following that. Now that I know what I want to hit, practice that movement that I need to do to hit that exact shot and then execute. So that's for me, that's how I do the movies in my mind basically.
That's really cool. Do you ever do the sort of the recalling of the best chip you ever made on that in that one tournament? And like, do you ever go back to stuff like that? I'm always curious about how people
No, not
sort of
really.
file away those memories.
No, not really. I'm just mainly focused on like the right now.
And which super important, by the way.
Yeah,
That is kind of important, right? It's all we have, right?
yeah. I try to keep out, if I get any bad thoughts, like, because you'll get them. Like, the mind will say, oh, I hope I don't flub this chip. Well, if I hear that in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I'm backing off. I can't have
Nice.
that. I can't think that because that's exactly what will happen. So I almost have to
Yeah.
erase that programming and go back through it and just, try to be positive on it. So,
Yeah. The in the Vision 54, Lynn Marriott and Pia Nielsen in their world, they call that a hit it anyway. And we absolutely don't want the hit it anyway, meaning you're over the shot and those those negative thoughts come in, but you hit it anyway.
yeah.
And you kind of flub the shot and yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like, when you do back off, like, how many you actually hit good. Some you're not going to get all of them, but it does help. You just have to be aware of it. I think awareness is a big thing. And that goes to the detachment as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can detach emotionally to some degree and just be aware of these things, like, oh, I'm doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. I need to back out and start over again.
So you're talking about awareness of what's happening in our mind as we step into these shots, right?
Yeah. So if I'm starting to get negative, um, it's almost like you had a devil on one shoulder and an angel on another. When that devil starts speaking up, you have to be aware and Don't let that seep in, because it's gonna affect that shot, which will affect the next and the next and the next. So it's really just about, I guess, being positive. I want a positive outcome. And if my visualization is not giving that to me, I need to either rethink the shot, rethink the club, or just back out of it and kind of take a deep breath and then start over again.
So how do you how do you do that on every single shot? I would say that would be, if I think about my own game right now, just being straight out, you know, the way it is for me is I'm not always in that, creating that visual behind the shot.
I think you have to force yourself to do it. This is what Tim was speaking about the other day, and having these movies in your mind, this visualization in your mind. And he said, and this may be useful, is Jack Nicklaus used to do this twice. So he didn't do this one time for this one shot. He did it twice for that shot. And I think if you could do that, that's going to get you into the habit of forcing yourself to think about it, because you're like, okay, so I already thought about this once. Now I need to think about it again. Whereas the other guys are just walking up and hitting the ball. I think two times would actually kind of start to train you to be consistent with visualizing your shot patterns.
Yeah. I I heard one time that Jack Nicklaus, who when he was playing, and if you're watching on TV, like he would linger over a putt just sort of like forever, right? Like he would, and what I understand is what he was doing was he was completing that visual movie. So if it was, especially if it was like a longer putt, he's going to be hanging out there longer because he's playing the movie. And I don't know if this is correct, but somebody told me that he's also playing the movie backward. So he sees
Really?
the ball roll on the putting surface. He's seeing the ball roll toward the hole, but he's also seeing it come back. I know it sounds really bizarre, but like that's why he would spend so much time over the putt.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that right there is probably the number one reason why I still think he's the greatest. I know we got Tiger fans and all that, but um, I still think Jack is numero uno. But wouldn't it be interesting? I know Elon Musk has like this Neuralink company.
Right.
We're gonna get to the point one day where we will be able to see these little videos in people's minds. Wouldn't it be interesting if
That
Jack's
would.
probably not going to be around then, but it would be really cool to see what is Tiger Woods thinking? What is Jack Nicklaus thinking? I think that would be pretty awesome. Kind of enlightening for people, but um, you know,
That's so incredible. Like, could you imagine the telecast? All the players have this Neuralink in their brain, and then there's some representation like these are the things they're thinking about over this putt. Or and like when we can actually
mhm.
there's some representation like they're thinking about, the burger they're gonna have, the whatever. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's I kind of here or there see things that they're doing with that Neuralink thing, and I guess the primary goal is to help people that are paralyzed to walk again. But the I saw the other day they're actually going to be able to help people see better as well, almost like Geordi on Star Trek: The Next Generation. They were explaining it, and they're not far away from being able to do that. And I'm like, my goodness, if you could see inside of Jack's brain when he's competing, that would be that would be incredible. It'd be so eye opening for the average golfer, I think. But I guess we can just go off of what he's told us basically, and visualization is just so important, so important.
Yeah, it's weird that, I'm in this space and I would say that I don't do it very well. There's a lot of things I think because I swim in these mental game waters, I probably do pretty well. But I'm really interested in the visualization piece. I think that's a huge opportunity for me. And I would say, like, I know, like, when I'm chipping and I can see the ball hitting that spot, I I get better results
Yeah.
typically.
I mean, it's almost like when you're playing basketball, you have the goal, right? And you focus in on the rim. And putting's a little more difficult. We could focus on the hole, but it's got to take a journey to get there. Like you're
Right.
saying with Jack Nicklaus. Um, so it's just that focus on that point that your brain speaks to the muscles and somehow gets it to that point. And you just can't do it without visualizing that and practicing the movement and just trying to hit that spot on the green, or wherever your line is, get that line uh, nailed down.
No doubt. You said the word muscles. I really want to talk about the work you do inside of golf that really is centered on mobility, because I firmly believe there's a really strong relationship between the inside game, the mental game of golf, and the physical. It's not like an either or. Like, you have to have both.
Yeah, and
Tell me a little bit about that.
so I think the average golfer needs to understand, if you see Scotty Scheffler or Tiger, probably not Tiger today, but some of these younger golfers with these incredible golf swings, the average golfer, probably 80 to 90% of them, can't even hit those positions in the swing. Like, physically, it is impossible. They might feel like they're close to it, but they just can't do it. And it's just because of tightness, lack of flexibility, maybe some joint mobility issues, maybe they have arthritis, all these different things. And but you can start to get closer and closer and closer to the perfect positions. So we have this thing here at Graves called the 4D, and it basically shows you your positions, and it's got, like, it's either green or red, and there's yellow. So green, you're all good. You're hitting your position. So we had an interesting story a couple months ago. A gentleman could not hit position 1, 2, or 3, and he started doing the stretching. We had some very basic stretching programs we were putting out, and he started doing it, and lo and behold, everything started to light up green. He was able to hit all of these positions, and it was just from doing basic stretching. There's no exercise really whatsoever other than the stretches. So that just shows you the power. You can start to reverse things, if you've neglected them.
What would be some of the highest leverage physical and or flexibility and or mobility work that the average golfer could do to improve their game in the next week or in the next 30 days?
So mainly, w- to a person, they have almost a C shape. If you look at them, their posture, they have slumped shoulders, uh, and that translates over to the golf swing, right? So what we need to do is
Gonna
strengthen,
sit up straighter as you're
yes,
talking.
strengthen
Oh, geez.
our shoulder, our back, and we're usually tight right here in the chest and the shoulders. So start to do some tissue work here. You can stretch on doorways and things like that, but try to actually reverse. The tight muscles, we try to relax them. The weak muscles, we strengthen them. So I would start to strengthen the posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, all these things that are on average, I would say 80% of the people are pretty much the same. Just very weak on the posterior chain, overly strong on the front, overly tight on the front, and begin working there. So one exercise I would say would be the horse stance reach. It's like when you get down in the quadruped position, you lift up one arm and then one leg. That's probably bang for your buck. That's probably one of the best ones. Also, I call them ass to grass squats. because that works out your hips. That kind of breaks down the hip, it strengthens everything on the lower half of your body. But it also helps with flexibility as you're dropping into this position. Most people can't do it at first, but if they work at it, they'll be able to do it. So those are two things I would do. Um,
That's the squatting position where you're squatting below, say, your knees, right?
exactly
All the
right.
way to where your butt is on the grass
Yeah, and
or
now
close to
if
it.
you couldn't do that, you could do it with the help of a TRX would be useful.
Hmm.
Another one that I would do just for strength, which correlates to power, would be Turkish get up with a kettlebell, and that works everything. So you're working flexibility, but you're working your entire body basically, and it's very good for your shoulders, very good for your posture. So those are
Very
three things I
hard.
would do.
It must be good. I always like. There's a few exercises that I'm like, man, I hate this one. It must be good,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Turkish
For
get-ups
bang for
falls
your
into that
buck, those
category.
are the three that I would go with.
Yeah, love that. What would be some more examples of some of the things you see in terms of the the transformation that can happen for somebody's game as they move from tight and weak and inflexible to loose, stronger, and much more mobile.
Mainly a better swing, better quality swing, less pain, but most impressively, speed. They gain speed.
All right. Well,
So
so
when
how does that happen?
you're basically your swing gets better because you're able to start getting closer to the right positions.
Is it a sequence thing as well?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And over time, if that sequence is out of whack, you're not able to hit these positions. It's they're barriers, they're roadblocks. But as you start to smooth it out and get closer to whatever it is for you is perfect, we'll never obtain perfection, but we can get closer and closer to it. As you start to refine your swing, you get your points better, um, you become more efficient. And with that efficiency comes more speed. So we're basically getting rid of these roadblocks, but you're also getting stronger. You're able to apply that power. And the way I do training is I do a lot of balance work as well with people. So that balance, if they can stay balanced, helps with the efficiency, helps them hit these positions, helps them stay in these positions when we're through motion. When we start applying force, that club head is pretty heavy if you really think about it. To be able to stay on balance and maintain your positions requires a lot of strength and balance. So once you get these things, you get this work in. It's not unusual for somebody to see uh, 15 yards in a month adding to their driver just from doing
That's
some
big.
basic work.
That is big.
Yeah, and if they continue on, I've seen in 6 weeks 30 yards, which is
That
amazing.
is, yeah, that is amazing. And so the posterior chain thing is super important, right?
Hmm.
And what are some of the keys there that you like? And I'm thinking about, we if we think about strengthening. Well, let me ask it this way. I think in the posterior chain, a lot of times we hear of players who have back issues,
Hmm.
right? What would you say to somebody that has back issues? Not that you're diagnosing anything, but are there broadly some things that can keep our back health, our lower back health,
Yeah, so
very
Dr.
productive?
Stuart McGill, he's a Canadian kinesiologist. I believe he's a kinesiologist, but he's done a lot of research on this, and he's essentially said if you can hold a plank for 2 minutes, your back pain is pretty much gone. So what that means is if you can strengthen your core strength, so your stomach muscles, your low back, your hips, your quads, all these things that interact with your core. Also, flexibility. Most people have really tight hip flexors, so that's why you see posture issues in the lower back. If you can address these things and work your way up to that 2-minute plank, you should see a huge improvement in that area.
Oh,
It's
that's
really just
interesting.
about you're overly strong in certain areas, you're weak in others, you're overly tight in areas and weaker in others.
So, so the plank is the sort of the standard elbows at 90,
Hmm.
feet straight out and back straight.
Yep.
There's your right 2 minutes. And then the so so you said hip flexors is also key as well. And is that the squat where you got your butt all the way down to the
Well, that's
grass? Is
just
that a hip flexor?
they're the muscles that kind of lift your leg, like when you're kind of walking. When we sit, they become overly tight.
Okay.
So if you look at people that stand all day, they don't have overly tight hip flexors. You see somebody that sits at a desk all day, like we are right now,
Yeah.
chances are they have overly tight hip flexors. So I was watching some guys at the club over here earlier get up, older guys, after they sit for a while, and they can't stand up straight. It's because they have super overly tight hip flexors, but weak glutes, a weak core, all these other things that are kind of contributing to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
So I guess mainly what I'm saying is we've got to restore balance in the body. That's the key here. So you
Yeah.
diagnose weaknesses, where are they overly tight, and just try to reverse those things as much as possible to get them back to how we were as children. If you ever watch a child walk around, they can do anything. Like they can just squat down, pick something up off the floor like it's nothing, and super flexible. So we're trying to get back to that point. We never will, but we can get close.
No, it's huge. I love that. I love the work that I've seen as part of the flexibility and mobility work that you're doing with the Graves golf community, and I know you're doing a lot more with the team there as well, and it's super exciting, and there's so many great things going
Yeah,
on.
I love it here. It's great.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, I appreciate the chance to chat with you, Christian. And I'm going to enjoy our visits coming up. I'll be out next week
Perfect.
for an alert attitude of indifference school, which will be a lot of fun. So I'll look forward to seeing you in your new facility and continuing our conversation. So
Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges in parts, but I think you're going to be very, very impressed with what we've done here and what we're building.
yeah, no doubt. I was out in July and super impressed. I mean, it was the
Oh,
doors were
it's
barely open essentially,
way
but
better now.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we've got a few minor issues, but other than that, it's fully operational and awesome.
yeah. Well, and for those listening and watching, I mean, I've never seen a golf performance center as dialed in as the Graves Golf Academy Performance Center in Edmond, Oklahoma, and more to follow, I'm sure, on accessibility, how you can get in touch with. We'll put some links in the down below to give you an idea of how to get a hold of Christian and the Graves Golf Academy group, and perhaps head out someday and spend some time at the golf performance center there.
Yep. Come see
Good
it.
stuff. Good stuff. Christian, thank you so much. Have an amazing day, and I'll look forward to seeing you very soon.
All right. Sounds good. Enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
buddy. All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this latest episode of the Most Important Game podcast. Christian Henning, really interesting perspective on the game of golf. And when you come from this perspective of strength and mobility, boy, it really changes how you play the game and how you're able to move. Love the stories he tells. I don't know too many people or I don't have a ton of conversations these days with people who have read the classic Ben Hogan 5 lessons, what Hogan called the modern fundamentals of golf so many years ago. And I love the idea of what ginger ale can do to maybe a queasy stomach or nerves and anxiety. So fun to hear Chris talk about that. So super passionate about the game, no doubt about it. So once again, I'm Paul Monahan, and my mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best by focusing on your inside game, not just your outside game. If you'd like to learn more about me or the work that I do with my clients, you can reach me at my website. It's paulmonahan.com. You can find my book, The Most Important Game, there. It's also available wherever fine books are sold. If you're watching on YouTube and you really liked this conversation, go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. And if you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and hit the follow button, and you'll see and hear about all the new podcasts we have coming up. Once again, thank you, Kevin Monahan, for working behind the scenes as our producer. And till next time, remember, don't give up. Stay in the game. No matter the arena that you're performing in, it is possible to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more.